Back in the year 2020, amidst a global pandemic, 17-year-old Joker was broke and had no job because he was in high school during a global pandemic. Luckily, there are very generous game devs who list their hard work on Steam for the low price of free $99, and I came across this cute little game called Eternal Senia. It's a short little adventure RPG made in RPG Maker by Sanctum Games, and I immediately fell in love with it. I could keep explaining the game to you, so I will. But let's start from the beginning. By the way, if you want to play this game, you should probably go do that before watching this, because I'm going to spoil the entire game. You're still here? Okay, cool, let's go. We start the game as our protagonist Senia, who enters the Tower of Eternity in search for her lost sister. Right off the bat, we're given a tutorial on the battle mechanics, which are as easy as making physical contact with an enemy and violently assaulting them. By attacking, we also take slight damage, so it's a trade-off, but nothing life-threatening at this point. After slaughtering everything in our path, we get stopped by a large knight, and pull the classic onigiri to cut him down at the expense of our sword. That's not going to stop us though, because we still got these hands. Unfortunately, these hands do nothing against the dragon trying to roast our shit into lunch, but lucky for us, someone else died so we can take their sword from them. After digging in the dragon's butt, our armor breaks and Senia is consumed by the darkness within. Dramatic flashback to Senia's parents being murdered, and being saved by a priestess named Magaletta, who becomes fixated on mispronouncing Senia's name to Nia, which will probably be important later since the game has a different colored text when she says it. Senia is adopted by Magaletta, and then later goes missing in the Tower of Eternity, which is why we're in this situation to begin with. We eventually come to and proceed through the tutorials and puzzles before reaching the boss of the floor, King Slime. Aside from going invulnerable during its dash attack, it's a super easy fight since he spits out small slimes that always drop health when attacked during its second phase. Once again, we defeat the enemy and the darkness takes over as we get another flashback of Senia being scolded by Magaletta for secretly practicing her sword skills, because she wants to help Magaletta. Snap back to reality and we can get out of the entrance and make our way up to the Forest of the Fairies. I'll be honest, the majority of this game is just moving room to room, killing enemies for loot and XP, but hey, it's an RPG, of course it's gonna have RPG elements. Going forward, enemies will sometimes drop resources, like fairy cloth and fairy crystals, which I'll explain more later, but they're still important. Eventually we run into an elf, which, I've seen enough anime to know where this is going. Ow, what the hell? Now we have no choice but to unleash our Phantom Strike and kill the elf, also now unlocking one of our 4 skills and is probably going to be the one we'll be using the most. On top of being used to attack, we can also use the Phantom Strike to cross some gaps, which we do in the previous room to grab this chest which gives us a book of defense, which when used will increase our defense by 1. Shocking, I know. Deeper in the forest, we come across a fairy in trouble being chased by a spider that we need to kill, but I accidentally walked in their path and desynced them. It made them look really funny. In return for rescuing her, the fairy tells us the Fairy Queen is in danger and teaches us how to craft, which is where the cloth and the crystals come into play, because we can use these to make our equipment. The crystals for swords and gloves, and the cloth for armor and capes. These pieces of equipment will raise various stats and make us stronger as we move through the floor. Pushing through some more monsters, we parkour our way to another chest for more defense and get a peek at a king monster which even if we wanted to fight, we couldn't. I'm not gonna lie, the game's pretty repetitive of just running into enemies, trading damage, moving on to the next enemy, so I'll only really highlight the important stuff, like this Facebook page admin who wants a code for materials. I think you're supposed to go to the Facebook fan page, but it doesn't seem to exist anymore. So thank you Steam community for telling me that the code is 1215, which gets us some crystals, cloth, and a book to increase our attack. We can now craft stronger forms of our equipment, but this highlights probably the most annoying part of the game, because to craft the stronger equipment, we need the weaker equipment, but if we have the weaker equipment applied, we need to remove it first instead of just instantly converting it to the upgraded form. So we're going to continuously need to unequip all, upgrade, and equip best again and again during the game. Continuing deeper into the forest, we break down a few trees with our sword, which is foolish because it will just ruin our durability and it doesn't take many materials to craft an axe. We build a bridge, find this tucked away chest, and enter a village that looks very familiar to the one in Senia's flashbacks and is totally not at all just a reused asset. There is an adventurer here who thinks they're stronger than us, but we hit him with our 36 caliber Phoenix and once again get sucked into the void to relive the moment Senia tries to help Magaletta by taking a bullet for her, but ultimately just causes the events of the game to happen. So great job, Senia! We're awoken by the fairy again, who explains that the guy who attacked us was possessed by Eternity, a power so strong it can grant any wish, but if one cannot control it, then they'll become possessed by it. After negotiations, the little fairy joins our party, and we can ransack this random chest in a village that we can add to our account and enter the Arcane realm. As soon as we enter, we learn the jump slash move, which is the only other good skill we'll be getting, and proceed through a series of rooms with different puzzles and enemies that reward us for progressing, and eventually have us face a boss after so many rooms. Shit. The purpose of going through the Arcane realm is to defeat the boss for an elite stone, an integral component to crafting higher level equipment. After running through the Arcane realm a few times, we get as many crystals and cloth as we need to eventually level up all of our equipment to elite status, and finally get back to the actual game. It's honestly just a short walk to the end of the floor, passing a few new enemies and even getting another defense book. But if you think we're gonna move on, you'd be wrong. In the final room before the boss, we meet Jack in the Chest, Slimy, and the legendary Sheep, who all want different things from us in reward for rare items. Jack in the Chest gives us a reward for opening all chests on the floor, Slimy rewards us for killing a certain amount of each enemy, and the legendary Sheep rewards us for having all of our equipment at legendary status. To make it easier, we just warp back to the beginning of the forest to grab what we missed. One of the biggest hurdles would be killing the king enemies for their legendary stones, which are just normal enemies but larger and they do more damage. And during all that, grab this chest here, which we need the jump slash to reach. With that and all the monsters we killed along the way, we get a violet crystal from Jack, 4 books of evasion from Slimy, and the master badge from the Sheep. With the entire floor of the dungeon complete, we finally head to the boss and fight it on hard mode, because I'm not a little bitch. We accidentally walk in on the Fairy Queen in the middle of being possessed by Eternity, which is so embarrassing, like, yikes. The Fairy Queen is upset with us for not knocking and attacks us to begin the fight. I'd like to say I beat the boss on my first try, and if you ignore what's in front of your eyes, we can say that I did. But in reality, it took me a few tries. But I still beat it on hard mode, so I get to keep my good at video game certificate for now. Once we defeat the Fairy Queen, we break her free from Eternity, and this time get a little help instead of succumbing to the darkness yet again. She tells us that there are 2 wolves inside of us, a curse and the ability to absorb Eternity, which is very convenient if we want to stop Eternity from taking people over. We also find out Magaletta had been through there and went on to the Demon Frontier, so we continue our journey onward in pursuit. The Demon Frontier is exactly like the Fairy Forest, if everything was dead and ugly and in space instead of a lush green forest. Pretty early on, we run into our good friend Facebook fan page admin and get more crystals, cloth, and an attack up. Thanks, buddy. The floor features a few puzzles forcing us to move with near perfect precision, like this one for this chest here. And past the halls, we reach an evil castle. The drawbridge is up with the switch just out of reach, so our solution is to grab the little fairy and go before chucking her across the gap to hit the switch, which now allows us to throw the fairy whenever we want. We breeze our way through the entrance and use other enemies to clear paths for us to find more chests until we eventually reach the lobby and investigate this hole in the back to play as the little fairy just this once and grab the chest in here. When we read the stone in the middle of the room, we're given the option to go to the Pit of Strength, Corridor of Wisdom, or the Passage of Bravery. We first choose the Corridor of Wisdom to overcome the 7 deadly sins, like pride in the form of a boss fight, and greed in the form of Pac-Man. Eventually we reach Lust, and I'm immediately terrified of the implications of Magaletta being in here. Luckily, it's not actually her and just some bloodthirsty succubus who completely clocks Senia's jealousy over Magaletta's dead sister. She offers to make Senia the only sister of Magaletta just for some of her blood. But the cross pendant from Sister Dearest saves the day and stops this vile demon, and we shred her down to complete the segment. The darkness consumes once again, but instead of Senia's past, we get to see the dead sister with Magaletta, and over the course of the next few minutes, watch her get sicker and sicker until she dies. Of course, we're immediately thrust back into the gameplay with no explanation, and complete the Passage of Bravery, which is just a long walk to the end of the room while grabbing a chest along the way, and killing death itself to prove our superiority over the laws of nature. The last area is the Pit of Strength, which is just the Demon Frontier's version of the Arcane realm. All we do is grind some elite crystals and kill another boss to open the way forward, and upgrade all of our equipment to elite status for the floor. Now that we passed the 3 trials, a new portal has appeared and oh dang, we just found Magaletta, we must be at the end of the game. Ow, what the hell? Of course, the attack induces another boring flashback, and once we come to, we can head on to the rest of the area. The last section is just a tower full of enemies and a candle puzzle I brute forced to grab this chest. And I accidentally tricked the moon into showing itself just to go back and grab the chest up here, which kinda ruined the walk up to the boss. Just like the Forest of the Fairies, we run through the whole Demon Frontier again to kill all the monsters we need, grab any lingering chests, and kill the king enemies for the legendary crystals. With all those, we can get the 4 new books of evasion, the second violet crystal, and a master elixir to regain more MP while we attack. Of course, we take on this boss in hard mode yet again, and whoa mama. As hot as he is, he wants us to serve him and invade the Forest of the Fairies, so we have to refuse and fight him. And this fight went even worse than the last. During my attempts while fighting this boss, I died twice, but somehow was allowed to keep playing. I thought it's because I heal while the death text box is up, but it didn't work like that later, so I'm gonna say it's because I conquered death earlier in the game because I genuinely have no clue how it happened. At the end of the day, we do defeat the Demon Lord and find out that he's the parent killer from our past, and as he's about to finish the job, Plot Armor saves us as Magaletta swoops in to steal Eternity and forces us into another flashback. Magaletta is failing to heal Senia and gives her the cross pendant before leaving her behind and going to the Tower of Eternity, where Senia follows her, and we start the game as our protagonist Senia, who enters the Tower of Eternity in search of her Wait, you've heard this already. With Magaletta gone and the Demon Lord slain, we can make our way up to the final area of the game and learn our final move, Eternity Burst, which drops a spirit bomb on everything around us and boosts our recovery, at the expense of making Senia look like I did every day in first period during high school. Coincidentally, the cross pendant we just saw in the flashback breaks after using the attack, meaning surely this will be something important to the story later. Once we're back on our feet, it's time to head up the stairs to the final area of the game, the Fallen Sanctum. Upon arrival, Senia notes that the place looks just like the church she used to live in with Magaletta, and the fairy lets us know that it's because the floors are shaped after the people who rule them, meaning that Magaletta has obtained eternity. Of course, we waste no time getting to where we need to be, grabbing the free items from the Facebook page admin, killing enemies, and revisiting Magaletta and Senia's rooms to collect a music sheet and the blueprints for the Hydrangea sword and the violet crystal armor. This is where the violet crystals we've been getting from Jack come into play, because right now we can only either make the armor for both of our crystals or the sword for one of our crystals and get the other crystal at the end of this dungeon. I choose to craft the sword because I always believe if this number is high, you'll automatically win. We proceed to run back and forth across the sanctum to open chests and solve puzzles to open more areas, and do more running for the other music sheet, which we can play on the piano, but the piano plays itself. It spews out a cover of the game's main theme and unlocks the path forward to areas of narrow hallways surrounded by water with enemies all around, along with the occasional hidden switch you accidentally hit for a chest. It wouldn't be Eternal Senia without another Arcane realm to grind out materials and elite crystals, which we do for a short amount of time before moving through more narrow paths of enemies. Finally, we make it to the end of the dungeon, but as usual, we're far from done. We're actually so far from done that we fight the boss now, which will make sense in a minute here, because after talking with Magaletta, she's taken over by Eternity, and we have to fight her as the final boss of the game. Magaletta is a pretty simple boss, aside from the fact that she's always moving around and teleporting everywhere, but we eventually get her HP down, and after some talking, she embraces us, just so she can infect us with Eternity, and with that we get Ending 1. Now we can go back to the beginning of the Sanctum and do all the things we missed, like grabbing the chests, killing the enemies, picking up the legendary stones, and getting a few more elite crystals to fully upgrade our equipment. We eventually make our way to a path that was previously blocked off, that teleports us to a corridor with various rooms that hold crystals, and we need to place them on these pedestals to progress further in. At the end of the segment is an altar that sends us outside the Sanctum, and with no way back in, we check out the back of the church and find a little graveyard. And of course, the only decorated one belongs to Magaletta's sister Nia, who we pay respects to, and oh, holy shit, it's her! Nia projects herself from the heavens to tell Senia she's her own person and not a replacement of Nia, and to tell Magaletta to be happy before disappearing and fixing the cross pendant that had broken before. We can grab the last few things in the dungeon, get the evasion books from Slimy, the reward from the sheep, and the final violet crystal from Jack to craft the violet crystal armor, and most importantly, equip the cross pendant for the final fight. This time around, there's a new dialogue than before, where Senia stands up for herself to be her own person, which almost breaks Magaletta free from Eternity, but she decides that she wants to rock our shit anyway. The fight is as it went before, but since it's on hard mode, the attacks obliterate my HP crazy fast, because what do you mean I just took 150 damage from that? After a few tries, we beat Magaletta before she attempts to take us down with her yet again. But this time around, the cross pendant saves us from Eternity, and Magaletta evolves into a PNG for the final fight. During the fight, she puts up barriers, shoots lasers, spawns enemies, and even takes out the floor underneath you multiple times. I'll be honest, I really did try to beat her on hard mode, but with so many things happening on screen at once, I just couldn't do it. Nor did I want to spend hours attempting the fight, so I played on normal mode and I took her down on my literal first try. Eventually, we save Magaletta and can finally go home, but just as it seemed like a happy ending, Senia gets taken by the darkness once more, and this time is the nail in the coffin. This splits the game into two endings, where you can either push Magaletta away or do nothing. And honestly, the ending where you push her away is kinda dark, because Senia is fully possessed by Eternity, and in her stupor attacks Magaletta, which is such a depressing ending for all that we've been through. The other ending where we do nothing is the canon ending, because Magaletta takes all the eternity out of Senia and teleports her out of the room, saving Senia, but at the cost of never seeing her again. After the credits roll, Senia is visiting Nia's grave, vowing that no matter what, she will find a way to bring back Magaletta, and gives us the final and true ending of the game. Given with how the game ended on a cliffhanger, there is a sequel that is promoted at the end of the game called Eternal Senia: Hydrangea After the Rain, which is actually a mobile game that plays nothing like Eternal Senia does, but does try to stay faithful in its mechanics and the story. I did try it at one point, but I'm not really much of a mobile gamer, so hey, now that you know the story, you can go check it out if you really want to give it a try. On that note, thank you all so much for watching this video to the end. Despite the game not having a lot, it's always one I try to play through once a year or so because of just how fun it feels. If you want to go check it out, it's free. Yes, free if you haven't figured that one out yet, on Steam. I also want to let you know that I have so many upcoming projects in the works, so make sure to subscribe to get notified when those come out, and leave a like to let me know that you love what I make. Again, thank you so much, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.